check it out. You know what it is. It's Friday, TGIF, and are you getting ready for the weekend? Because I am. It is another edition of the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series, and as we do on Fridays, right over there, we bring him in. It's Phillip Washington Jr. We're talking about your money, your health, your nest egg, your IRA, and all of your finances. Are you ready for the weekend?
I'm ready for the weekend. How about you?
I can't complain. I have no plan. Actually, you know what I'm going to do this weekend? There are two things that are on my list. One is go to the farmer's market and get some more salsa because we ran out yesterday.
Huh.
And
what's your favorite? I guess you don't want to say your favorite brand because they don't advertise. I'll ask you off camera.
It's just the salsa guy. I don't know. He makes this salsa that is just incredible. So we go there, and there's a big event tomorrow called the Back to School Bash, and anybody and everybody's going to be there. So
hey, we should go.
Yeah.
Actually, we're probably not going to go.
Well, your kids can get free backpacks and other school supplies. And
the only reason I said is tomorrow is Kelly's birthday, so we will be hanging out, brunching it up, showering her with love and appreciation all day.
And cake.
I have to go. I got to order her cake
there you go.
After we record.
But we're not here to talk about the weekend or birthdays or cakes or back to school. Although back to school, is this not the greatest time of the year? Today, the topic is as we do, we follow up your podcast, Wealth Building Made Simple, with this episode. And today we're talking about the story of wealth. And you have a story about a family called the Friedmans.
Yes. And I'll shorten it for this podcast, but it's basically the story. The Friedmans represent the mindset that resists change.
Yeah.
That's in government, that's in organizations, that's in family. And what typically happens is a generation comes, they have ideas that they implement. If they're good executors of the ideas on sound principles, they enjoy massive amounts of wealth. And as life progresses and new ideas can come into the marketplace and new technology comes, those who resist ideas can survive for a little bit, but at some point, like the market preference always changes, right? What we call the market is a collective mind. So it's natural that if the collective mind is made up of all generations, as new generations comes, those overall preferences begin to change. And so if you don't update your business, your government, the way you do things with the market, if you judge it and say it's stupid, right, you're not going to see the solutions. But there becomes a point where in order for you to maintain your lifestyle, if you haven't updated yourself with the changes, you got to take on debt, right? And then the debt becomes massive and massive until you can't pay it anymore. And the new generation eat your lunch over time if they were not your partners because you embraced it and worked with them. And so that's where we are in America. Like if you look at the balance sheet of every major country around the world, for the most part, or at least collectively, it's terrible. But it's because the people that run the world from a decision-making standpoint are trying to, they're doing their best, but they're looking at the solutions for problems through the lens of things that worked in the industrial age. But we're in a whole new age, and they're trying to resist change.
We're in the technology age.
We're in the technology age, which is very deflationary. Like you hear all the government say, we have an inflation target. Well, technology is deflationary. Technology brings the cost of living down. So why would you fight that? Well, you would fight that because you loaded up on debt from resisting change for so long that if you have debt, deflation is bad because it crushes, right? It crushes businesses that are relying on debt that have fixed obligations to pay.
So going back to the Friedman family, all right, let's say Mr. Friedman has a job. He works for a corporation. He invests in his 401k, and he works there 30 years, maybe let's say 40 years. He's been a company man for 40 years, but he hasn't rolled with the changes. I mean, that's been his only investment. His retirement plan and his home are his only investments. He, as we're, he's not rolling with the evolution of going from one type of would you say the industrial into the technology.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going with the flow.
Right.
He may retire wealthy, but
Yeah.
there's more to it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and I think of the way I think of wealth, right? Wealth is value, wealth is quality of life, right? But from a how you parlay that into actual finance, you're only going to remain wealthy if your assets and time are invested up to date with where the world is going, right? So meaning you can have $1 million worth of stock 40 years ago in a coal company, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Good, clean American coal.
Yeah, it ain't worth that today because like you didn't update your investments, right? And so just like a lot of people, unfortunately, the 401ks today don't allow for what I own personally, like the Bitcoin and the artificial intelligence and the art companies. Like a lot of the 401ks are only invested in the S&P. Like the investments that are in the 401ks today are not up to date with where the world is.
So the wealth,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sensing then is cyclical.
Yes, cyclical to the extent that you are thinking of it like winter, summer, spring, and fall, meaning like spring is the birth of new ideas.
Okay.
And if you keep your assets in winter, or right, and it's not in the new spring of the new generation, then you lose real wealth over time. Like your dollar value, might not go down, but your relative wealth, which is when you factor in inflation, right? When you factor in your money keeping pace with the cost of living,
Yeah.
That's what we're after, and that's like the age old way people lose wealth. They look at their 401k and they go, yeah, but I got $1 million in my 401k. I mean, yeah, but like look at what $1 million could buy just a decade ago, like in housing and everything versus today. I mean, it's not the same just in a 10-year span. And guess what? Inflation's getting higher, faster, right? Inflation over the last 10 years was peanuts compared to what I believe is going to be over the next 10 years. And so, like the dollar value is not important. Like what you're invested in and if you're up to date with where the world is going is where wealth is going to trend.
Keeping up with inflation and with the times. And I remember when we moved here in 2004, so we're talking 19 years ago, there were billboards along 287 advertising brand new houses starting in the 70,000s.
It's crazy, right?
And I thought, wow. Well, because, I came from a land where houses start at 500,000.
Right.
And so Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore.
And it's happening fast. I mean, if you really want to nerd out and study, different economies, study Argentina. I'm thinking of the famous ones. Argentina, Brazil's been through it a few times. You can look at different countries in Africa. You can even look at Greece, right now. Mm-hmm. You look at these countries and you go, oh yeah, they had these inflation problems. That's not going to happen over here. I'm like, we're in the middle of it. Like it's literally happening right now. The difference in America is we're such a free economy that like we have Silicon Valley in America, and Silicon Valley or that ethos represents innovation. And so you can choose to go work in AI, go work in crypto, invest in AI, invest in crypto. Like in America, we're so free. Bitcoin mining, you can choose to work in that, and your neighbor cannot, and you can have massive amount of wealth, and your neighbor can be poor. Versus like location, like in Europe, they got regulations that don't make it easy. China has their own set of problems. But America, the beauty of our land is we're still the land of free relative to everybody else on the planet. And so people are going, it's not happening here. No, it is happening here because somebody, like you said, somebody coming from California, they're not experiencing inflation. They're experiencing deflation.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, we've been over here in the culture of innovation making cash, right? So we're going to move to Texas, and this is cheaper for us because their assets like are in stocks of, Facebook, Apple, Tesla. They own Bitcoin. Like the level of wealth that I'm seeing people that I'm advising build, they're not having any financial problems. And then you can turn to the left, and there's a massive amount of people that are struggling because they're operating in the old world.
I was reading just the other day, and I read this on the internet, so it has to be true, and that Apple is valued at $3 trillion.
Yes, nuts.
And so I did a little research on this, and again, I found this on the internet, so it's right there. Only 6 countries in the world are worth more than $3 trillion, which means something like 250 countries in the world. The entire country is worth less than $3 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
Apple is its own country.
And I think that's what you and I talked about on my podcast, or I think I talked about it. New ideas with the old soul. Right?
Yeah.
So that would be an example of if you have an open mind, so you understand the concept of an economy, right? An economy is just a collective group of people getting together trading, right? So that's the universal eternal principle. But where you have to break apart the old mindset is people tend to think of an economy only locationally. They think of an economy as a country. That's not the case anymore. Not in digital. Like Apple is an economy, right? Apple puts together buyers and sellers, right, digitally.
Yeah.
Right? Amazon is an economy, right? Tesla is an economy. Facebook is an economy, right? Like there was a point where churches were the economy,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and then governments became the economy. Now corporations in the digital age are becoming an economy, and with that paradigm shift, you understand that $3 trillion is nothing, right? Compared to the ecosystem of how we buy and the trend of how we buy through phones and everything. And so it becomes like it's more, training your mind to say, let me be open to the new ideas, right? But let me also understand universal principles that human beings organize around always and forever. And just if you can just do the best you can to remove all conditions around the principles you understand as many as possible, then you can see them reforming around the new ways that we transact, right? In media, in finance, in how we think, in university, and everything is getting disrupted, and you will get disrupted based on your level of resistance, and you're going to win based on your level of allowance.
You made an interesting point on your podcast earlier this morning that old ideas die.
Yeah.
And that new ideas are created with imagination. New ideas, would you say new ideas with an old soul?
New ideas with an old soul.
Okay, yeah. So the what I'm taking away there is new ideas. They're being invented by the kids, by the younger generation.
Mm-hmm. And I also said this. This is the other thing I said too. You can be because right, like at some point, you and I are going to be an old soul.
I think I'm already there.
Yeah, but we can still entertain new ideas. So I'm always like, you want to be a new idea with an old soul, or you want to be a old soul that embraces new ideas, which is one and the same. Like it's energy and matter are the same, just expressed differently. Like it's one. So I'm just so this is not a knock against old souls, right? Because if you have an old soul, I think you're better able to spot principles if you remove your bias.
Right.
Right? Because you've lived life and you can say, oh, what he's saying is right because I look at all my experiences and 100% of the time when things worked out, it was a new idea with an old soul or an old soul that embraced a new idea. People who are just new ideas, they don't have life experience to understand what I'm saying.
Keep an eye on what the kids are interested in, because they're the next generation
They're the next generation.
They're the next generation of wealth.
100%. They bring it into being.
All right, let's get into our takeaway, and then we'll get into your contact information.
Be like water. Be like water. Like Bruce Lee says, the key to building wealth is just to go with the flow, with no resistance, with no judgment, right? And let things play out the way they're going to play out. And you participate in what feels good to you from that open mindset. And you're going to end up being led to the innovative new investments that will allow your wealth to continue and not have you be the coal mine investors from 40, 50 years ago.
Thank you, Sensei.
Namaste.
Namaste. If someone wanted to reach out to you and get some more information on how they can be like water and go with the flow, how can they reach out to Phillip Washington Jr.?
Best way is wealthbuildingmadesimple.us. That's wealthbuildingmadesimple.us.
That is Phillip Washington Jr. We do this every Friday right here on the podcast, and that's another 10-minute, well, in this case, 15-minute nugget of information. Have a great weekend. Tell Kelly happy birthday, and we'll do it again next week.
Will do. Thanks, Steve.